what's going on, family? Welcome to the ride. Another episode of Jeepu 786. This is Gavin Richard with Gavin Richard Presents. Whoever you are, wherever you are, I hope you all are doing blessed and safe this morning. You guys probably are familiar already, if you've been watching CNN and so forth, of all of the protests that's been going on. Now, and where this whole thing started and how we got here. Now, the picture you see, I took this picture from my television set because I noticed the owner of the grocery store at bottom left corner right there, and a brother that's right there. That's Jamar Nelson. He's the media relations for the Cup Foods grocery store. Didn't know they would have things like that, but okay. And the owner of the grocery store, his name is Michael. Mahmoud Abu Mayela. I think I pronounced that correctly. So he's called Mike around the community over there on 38th and Chicago Avenue in Minnesota. And apparently that grocery store has been there for over 30 years. And so he's brought this brother out who's basically, who is the media, I guess, media relations for the company. I've seen him together doing interviews and so forth, because right now they're trying to do damage control. All right, so let's not forget how this whole thing started with George Floyd, and that the 911, the police department was called because George Floyd was passed along a counterfeit $20 bill, allegedly. And you have to say allegedly because, number one, George Floyd is not here anymore, so he cannot defend himself. He's never been, he was not been charged and tried and convicted for counterfeit money. And the other thing is that he was actually innocent, more innocent in this case than anybody, due to the fact that he's no longer here with us. And the police officers used a great deal of excessive force intentionally to kill this man. Based off what we saw in that video. The videotape, unless it's been altered in some type of way, it doesn't lie. It is what it is. We saw it. So, but that's not what I wanted to get into. You know, he has given a statement. I'm talking about Mike here, where his family has been in business for over 30 years in that store. His father, Hamadi, opened that business back in 1989 and was known in the whole community. Now, he states that he wishes that the police were never involved because apparently he knew George Floyd. George was basically there to cash his check from work, and when he's buying a pack of cigarettes, he gives a $20 bill. My understanding, too, was that they're saying that it was an associate first of George Floyd in their statement that gave the $20 phone, passed a phony counterfeit, and then George came back and bought a pack of cigarettes with a counterfeit bill. And supposedly at the scene, the nephew of the store owner was present at the time. He was trying to get the police officers to stop, and they're stating it's a routine. It's routine for them to contact the police to notify them that a bill is counterfeit. Now, how do they know it's counterfeit? I know that there are markers you can use where they mark on a $20 bill where they check and see, I guess, if it changes color or if the serial numbers are off. But they don't know that George Floyd knew that was a counterfeit bill or that he was passing along that. And I get and read they said it was state policy that they had to do that. Well, I went to the Secret Service's website because, you know, the Secret Service is the one that handles the United States Treasury Department. They're the ones that handles counterfeit money. Secret Service, I believe, does that as well. And they do require you, I did see, if they do advise you, rather, that if you come across a counterfeit bill, you call the local police and you notify the Treasury Department and so forth. But my issue, and I got to say this though, is that this started because the police department was called. Now, I don't believe that they I'm talking about Cup Foods, knew that George Floyd was going to be dead. Do I think they intentionally meant to call him so for the cops to kill George Floyd? No. No. I don't believe that. But you know, you brought the cops out there, and from his own words, he knew George Floyd personally. Now, he wasn't there when this happened, and they're blaming it on fresher employees that are there. But this is what I want to talk about. We have these groups. If you read Dr. Claude Anderson's book, Powernomics, he talks about aggregation. And what he was talking about were how different groups, I was just reading his book, come into the community and they set up shop. And you know what I'm talking about. You talk about Koreans, you talk about Arabs, you talk about, Vietnamese, whoever. But different Asian groups that come into the community, set up grocery stores and make millions, and then send those monies back to their communities. Black people, we don't do things like that. We should be buying a whole block where we own our own businesses, and we go and we put our own monies in those businesses, and we circulate the dollar, and we also circulate it among those we try to support. So if we're trying to give monies, so let's say to the next business owner or somebody we believe in, so that they could buy another block of land and put up another business. If they're trying to get the local politician, the local DA elected, we could have this economic base where we can start greasing the wheel, as they say, because that's really how shit gets changed. It's about money. It's not about the vote. Politicians, it's like what Dr. Claude Anderson said. Politicians don't listen to what people complain and cry about. They listen to what they put in their pocket. I mean, that's just the truth. You know, Al Capone and Chuck Lucky Luciano, those guys, how they were able to stay around for such a long time was they knew who the politicians were. They knew who the judges were. They knew who the DAs were. You know, even when Dutch Schultz tried to kill Thomas Dewey, who's the DA of New York at that time, the commission, the Mafia Commission, they said, no, don't you do it. And they actually ended up killing Dutch Schultz because he went against the commission. He wanted to kill Thomas Dewey. Now, Thomas Dewey still prosecuted the Mafia, but it was a heart and rule of the Mafia not to kill police officers and, district attorneys like that because it was bad for business. They thought about the dollar first. Now, I'm not saying look up to Mafia figures or whatever, but we can learn something for how they operated. It's very interesting. Let me just read you. Hold on one second, guys. I got to go get the book for you. Give me 1 minute. All right. So yeah, I'm back. Excuse me. I thought I had this on me, but this is just part of Dr. Claude Anderson's book. He calls it ethno-aggregation. He states it's best defined as the voluntary concentration of individuals and their resources around their ethnic or language commonalities for the purposes of improving, or purpose rather, of improving their economic and political competitiveness. Now, one of the examples that Dr. Anderson gave is that in, and this is an old book, but he said approximately 275,000 Arabs immigrated into Dearborn, Michigan, and Detroit areas initially. In that short period of time, Arabs built the largest, wealthiest, and most powerful political base outside of the Middle East. They invest their profits to build more businesses in black communities. They almost exclusively hire their own people and refuse to buy from black businesses. Black Detroiters serve as a large concentrated consumer pool that Arabs use to enrich themselves in their countries of origin. Detroit is an 82% black city. According to an article in the Detroit News Metro Edition, July 8, 1999, Arabs, who constitute less than 1% of the city's metropolitan area population, have taken control of 90% of the city's gas stations, grocery stores, party stores, discount strip malls, and medical supply businesses. And according to the article, Arab businesses were so profitable last year. I don't know what year he was talking about. This book was written in, let's see, Powernomics. Well, it's not important, but 2001. So in 2000, Arab businesses were so profitable last year that their owners sent 69 million back to their homelands to help Arabs who were fighting with Israel in the Middle East. So why I'm bringing all of this up? We continue to shop at the places that continue to discriminate and treat us like shit. And I don't know why. You know, I've had my run-ins when I've gone into stores where I've been followed. I'll give you one example. There was an old building that's no longer there anymore, old clothing store that was in Araby, which is right outside Jackson Barracks in St. Bernard Parish, Louisiana. So I was in there with my parents. We had to go buy a shirt. I was getting ready to go, I guess, sing in the church choir or whatever the next day. And I was a kid this time. So as my mom and dad were walking in there, and I just came from my grandfather's house, who didn't live that far from the area, I had my hair cut. Now, regardless if I had my hair cut, I wanted to go and try a shirt on, or they want to try a shirt on to see if it fit me. And the manager, who had been following us, mind you, since we got in the store, never asked, could he help us? Never asked, well, is it something I can look for you for? Nothing like that. Wasn't friendly at all. Tried to forbid me from putting on the damn shirt. Like, he was actually arguing with me. Oh, you can't put this on. You can't put that on. You know, you cannot put this shit on. No, you just had that cut. No. Now, I didn't tell them that I had a haircut or anything like that, but they could see, obviously, the hair follicles that were off all over my, and residue, I guess, that were on my shirt. That's probably where that's where he saw all of that from. But if you're coming in there to spend money, money is money. And the only reason why I think my father was even arguing with the guy, and so what? Now, we ended up getting that shirt because I didn't feel like running to the mall. We didn't feel like going back and forth because it was getting late anyway. And we really needed it on that date. So that's what ended up happening. But this is a common problem that we find all across America in a black neighborhood, is that we have different store owners, people who don't look like us, that practice the same discriminatory tactics. Now, these guys have been in business there for 30 years up in Minnesota. Black people, this is the time, really, you should buy the whole entire block. This is what we should be doing, because I would not want to ever shop in a store like that. I'm sorry, but that's just the way I feel, because all of this did not have to happen. All of this did not have to happen. This started over a fucking phone call over a counterfeit bill that we don't even know was counterfeit at all. We'll never know. I don't know if the police even collected it. Don't forget Los Angeles, what happened with Latasha Harlins 30 years ago, when she got shot in the head over a bottle of orange juice. And when the owner of the store gets convicted, what do? They give her probation. The judge, her name was Carlin, if I'm not mistaken. This was a Korean store owner. Soon Ja-do was the Korean store owner that shot her in the back of her head. Voluntary manslaughter, and she only got probation. And that was 13 days after the Rodney King videotape. So all of that led to the riots. What you're seeing today basically is repeat. It's over and over again. Something happens in our community that we witness a crime, we witness a murder take place, and the people are frustrated because the murderers are not apprehended. Joyce Carlin was the judge. Yeah, he released a statement. Of course they had to release a statement saying how sorry they were because all of this happened on their fucking watch. It's a PR disaster. Let me just read you the statement. Cup Foods would like to extend its deepest condolences to George Floyd's family, friends, and the South Minneapolis community that we know and love. We are deeply saddened and outraged by what happened to George Floyd in front of our store. There is no justification for the use of reckless force displayed by the police that murdered George Floyd. We support this protest. The incidents that led up to this event teach us all an important lesson about dealing with police. There is a state policy that requires stores to call the police in the case of counterfeit bills. As a check cashing business, this is routine practice for us. We report forged money, then the police come and ask patrons about the bill to trace its origins. Upon receiving a counterfeit bill from George Floyd, one of our employees called the police in accordance with this procedure. The owner of Cup Foods, Muhammad Abu Mayela, was not present in the store at the time. 4 officers showed up at the scene, and they proceeded to escalate the situation with increased use of violence and force. The nephew of the store owner, who was also present at the time, was yelling for the police officers to stop and was pushed away by one of the cops. Sadly, we all know the rest of the story. Despite the fact that George never resisted arrest, police proceeded to end George Floyd's life over a counterfeit bill. It's likely that George did not even know that he had a fake bill to begin with. We are deeply saddened for our part of this tragedy. We have been a cornerstone and pillar of this community for 3 generations of our family, and for 31 years have proudly served our neighborhood. Since George's untimely passing, Cup Foods has been in regular contact with Floyd's family, who flew in from Houston. We are joining each other in prayer and solidarity, standing together to demand accountability from the cops. We will also personally be donating to pay for George Floyd's memorial service. Police are supposed to protect and serve their communities. Instead, what we've seen over and over again is the police abusing their power and violating people's trust. We realize now that escalating situations to the police almost always does more harm than good, even for something as harmless as a fake bill. This is not an isolated incident. They have shown time and time again that they do not know how to peacefully handle conflicts in our community. By simply following procedure, we are putting our communities in danger. Until the police stop killing innocent people, we will handle incidents like this one using nonviolent tactics that do not involve police. We must stand together to fight against institutional racism. This is our time to demand justice. Please make your voice heard. Call and email the Minneapolis District Attorney's Office to reach Mike Freeman. Join us in donating money to bail out funds such as the Minnesota Freedom Fund, Black Visions Collective, and Reclaim the Block. That's funny. Reclaim the Block. These are the guys. Look, I got to stop right there. I know there's a little bit more. Work within your communities to find alternatives to policing until the point that local and state officials decide to seriously hold police accountable once and for all. We will continue fighting with our South Minneapolis community until justice is served, not only for George Floyd, Ahmaud Arbery, and Breonna Taylor, but for everybody who is affected by police violence in our country. All right, I guarantee you that brother I showed you earlier, Jamar Nelson, is the one that wrote that, since he's media relations, because he says reclaim the block. These are the store owners, the people that have taken over our block. And what I'm telling you is not racist. What I'm telling you is not prejudice. I'm telling you a truth. I'm stating a fact. And you guys just got to deal with the facts. People got to deal with that. We are being boxed into a corner right now by different groups that come into our communities and take over. Now, like I say again, they have a right, and we can learn from them. They have a right to, they have a First Amendment right, or I shouldn't say a First Amendment right, but maybe a 14th Amendment right. Yeah, it's a free country. This is a capitalist society. You can buy land if you choose to and own property. But remember, for African Americans, for Black Americans in this country, we were always denied that, and still in most ways still denied that many years after slavery. Over 150 years after the Emancipation Proclamation, which truly did not free slaves, we've still been dealing with these issues of race and bigotry. And keep in mind also, most of these ethnic groups that I've mentioned, even Arabs and Koreans, they assimilate with white culture. And even Dr. Claude Anderson talks about that in the book. All of us have had an issue at some point or another. If we've been in any of these stores, I'm willing to bet where you've been followed, where you've been told shop and get out, because they think you're up to no good. But yet we continue to look, if I don't know what goes on, I haven't been in that store, I'm not familiar with it. But anybody at the Cup Food store, anybody that's been there, let me know how it is. But I can tell you one thing, I wouldn't be shopping there. I wouldn't be dancing, and I've seen people in the videos all dancing and cheering with all of this stuff going on. You're at war right now, and most you can do is twerk and fucking dance and listening to Bill Withers. That's the problem. We don't know how to do business. I saw this last week, a few days right after this incident happened. People were gathering around dancing, and this ain't the time for that. You want to dance at home. You got to learn to do business, people. Other groups know how to do business. But if it were up to me and somebody, I would not be shopping at Cup Foods.